Hey friends, Sean here from Korflex Fit Body Bootcamp. I wanted to do a quick mobility, flexibility video for you, approximately 15 different exercises that I utilize to keep me loose, limber, and better able to work out and take part in sports and whatnot. So let's take you through these nice and quick. The first one here is a simple squat sit. So the idea with feet shoulder width apart, all I want you to do is build your ability to sit down through the center, keeping your knees to the outside, keep your chest as high as you possibly can. You want to get compression of the thigh right against the upper body, and you're just going to sit here. You can spend as little as 30 to 60 seconds, upwards of 10 minutes a day. If you need, you can utilize other devices to sort of prop yourself up and keep up nice and tall. And if you find that maybe you can't get down this low, you can use books or anything else to basically prop up the height of the sit until you can. For instance, maybe I get a box, so I might just start at the ability to get down and sit in through here. Obviously something a little bit lower would work a little bit better, but the idea is to build mobility in through the hips, knees, and ankles. From this point, very simply, you can move into something that mobilizes the knees, just hand on knee, dropping knees towards the inside. So you get a little bit of movement, flexibility, and range through the hip joint, as well as in through the knee mobility, and you can sit right down on towards the ground with that. So number one is just a squat with knee drops. Second one here, anterior, posterior chain stretch. Could be up dog, down dog, maybe in the yoga world, but essentially that high push-up position where you're going to raise the bum up nice and high into the sky, and this is going to stretch everything through the posterior chain, your hamstrings, your calf. Okay, so high push-up comes all the way up and drops, and then the secondary movement would be to drop the hips down to the ground, also known as Mackenzie maneuver, stretching out through the anterior chain here, and you would go 10 cycles, go up and then come down 10 times, hold for 2 to 3 seconds at each range of motion to stretch everything out through the front and back side of the body. Number 3 is going to be the mountain climber. Mountain climber is the high push-up position, great exercise to stretch for the hip flexors. So from here, we're simply going to take a foot, bring it up. You can bring it outside the elbow or inside the elbow. In this case here, I'm going to use outside, and drop the opposite side hip down. Stay as tall as you absolutely can. Now as you do that, you want to squeeze the back side hip, and you're going to find a stretch through that front. Then I would switch to the opposite side, sink in, stretch, open up that front hip. Number 3 here is going to be the piriformis stretch. Piriformis stretch can be done simply sitting on the ground. You're going to cross one leg over top of the other. This is that small little thumb-sized muscle that sits right over top of the sciatic nerve and oftentimes causes sciatic or shooting pain down the leg. If it gets tighten a lot of people who sit throughout the day. So piriformis stretch, leg cross on the opposite side, lie back, and you're going to reach through and draw the leg up. This stretch is filled through that leg that's crossed, sitting there for 15 to 20 seconds per side, moving side to side 2 to 3 times, and always spend more time on the side that seems a little bit tighter, and most likely that's going to be on your dominant side leg. From there we move on to a couch stretch. Couch stretch is again hip flexor targeting, but also a quadricep muscle. If you picture your couch, the back of your couch, this is the part that you would sit against, right? The bum on the couch seat here. It's simply done by taking a leg up the back side of the couch, placing the knee as close as you can to the box. You're going to squeeze that glute as you place the other leg. And from here, everything tight, you're going to, nice and tall, extend through the chest. If you want to add more, you can reach an arm up overhead and lean away from that side. You're going to find an incredible stretch through that hip flexor, down through that right quadricep. Next up, we're going to take a look at some foam roller stretching, or fascial releases. So this is a foam roller. We have several here at Fit Body Bootcamp. You can pick them up at local sporting stores. We also have them at Korflex Chiropractic. The old idea on these is that because it was called a foam roller, people would get on it and they would just simply roll, which is a good massage-based exercise, I guess you could say, but you want to get a little bit more of a fascial untying. So when we stress muscles, when we sit in positions for long periods of time, we get the fascial layer that covers the muscle. Sometimes they'll adhere to other fascial layers in that area, and it affects the entire muscular system. So we want to untie that. So the idea is to pin an area and then provide a stretch. So let's talk about the IT band. In this case here, what I'm going to do, placing the side of the down leg here, going all the way from that hip joint all the way down to the outside of the knee, I'm going to slowly roll and find an area where it's increased sensation or sensitivity. I can feel a little bit of discomfort. I'm going to sit and rest and sink deeper into that spot. When it really starts to become uncomfortable, now I've pinned the muscle down, I'm going to start to cause the stretch by taking that downside heel and bringing it towards the bum. I don't know if you can see that leg. I'll try to get this one out of the way. But it basically, that small movement of opening and closing that knee angle, what it's going to do is it's going to pull and stretch that IT band, iliotibial tract, or the fascia, along the pinned point, and you're going to find incredible release through that side. And a lot of times we have knee and hip pain related to a tight IT band. So spending time rolling that entire chain from the hip all the way down the outside of the knee, finding those points of pressure or discomfort, and then applying movement in that area there is going to untack that fascia and get you better mobility, and it's going to help with your squat, your lunge, and a whole host of other movements. Same idea now with the adductors. That's the muscles on the inside of the legs. Again, if we're doing a lot of time sitting, tight muscles in the adductors here will pull those knees to the inside in concert with weak glutes, which will also cause knee pain. So in this case here, what's going to happen is I'm going to put the foam roller on an angle. I'm going to roll from the inside of the knee all the way up into the groin, and again, look for points of discomfort or sensitivity, and then start to induce motion. So at a 45-degree angle, I'm going to lie right on to the foam roller. I'm going to roll to that point where I can feel there's a little bit sensitivity there. I'm going to start to bring the heel nice and slow towards the bum, and all the way back out nice and straight. And it's going to drag that tissue along that point that's been pinned down here. You're going to find, again, it's going to create suppleness and looseness in through the adductors, which helps because when you squat, you want to keep your knees to the outside. So tight adductors are going to pull them in on you. That's going to help loosen things up and make you a better squatter. Next up, we've got the glutes. Again, another great exercise for the piriformis. This time here, we're going to use a focal ball. Okay, so this is quite a global use here. It's going to grab a lot of tissue. This is one spot. So similar approach as we did before. We're going to sit. This is going to go right under the butt cheek. You really can't find a wrong spot anywhere in the glute you're going to get benefit from. You're going to lean onto it, cross that leg over, and you're going to start to move and find areas where it's quite uncomfortable. And you're going to sink into that area and breathe. And once you get there, you can start to slowly add motion in and pull that leg in, and you're going to find a release and a stretch through that glute, through that piriformis muscle. So that's a simple lacrosse ball, which again, we have a couple of these here at Fit Body Boot Camp, as well as Corflex Chiropractic for you. Next up is a low back mobility exercise. This is a knee drop exercise done in 3 different levels depending on where your flexibility lies. So first level, most simple here. This can be done at the beginning of the day, it can be done at the end of the day. We have to prescribe these to our patients at the chiropractic clinic because we need that mobility in the low back to keep pain at bay or keep dysfunction at bay. Lying on our back with the arms outside, hands down, all I'm simply going to do with knees together is drop them to the side. I want to make sure that the upside hand stays down towards onto the ground. I'm going to rest the knees over 15, 20, 25 seconds, relax and breathe, and then come to the other side. I'm going to allow the muscles in the low back as well as through the glute and the IT band to stretch, relax, and release. Once I find that I can stack both knees down with minimal discomfort and they both have a full range of motion, I can then get rid of the leg that's closest to the ground and get more range of motion. So in this case here, instead of knees up, I'm going to get that leg out of the way, come all the way over, and find that I can go even further now with that stretch through the low back area, through the glute, through the IT band. The final on this one here is going to be to take that knee that's bent, that top leg, and straighten it out, getting even further of a stretch. Now we're going to tie in all the muscles, the peroneal group that run on the outside lower limb, take them all the way up and open that fascial chain that basically goes from the same side leg on the outside all the way up to the fingertips. So in this case here, I'm here, I've got the leg out of the way, I've come over, I'm going to take that all the way up and out, keep this hand flat on the ground, keep the shoulder flat on the ground, and I'm going to sit there 15, 20, 25, even 30 seconds, deep breathing, relaxing, opening up. I'm going to spend more time on the side that seems to be a little bit tighter, and we all have it because we have a dominant side we use a little bit more often. Moving on, we're going to go to the roll, V, sit, and reach. This one here is a good release for the low back as well as a stretch for the low back, the glutes, and the hamstrings. Very, very simply, all I'm going to do is roll back. I'm going to hands at the side for comfort or for balance. Try to get my feet all the way to the ground. Okay. And as I come up, feet are wide, I'm going to reach towards the center. Pause for a second, come all the way back. Feet all the way back, all the way up, and reach. And I'm going to, as I go through several, 15 to 20, I'm going to get my feet closer and closer towards the ground. So I'm going to get a rolling massaging in the low back. I'm going to apply some stretch to the low back, as well as I'm stretching the hamstrings, the adductors as I sit up and I reach forward here. Next up is the frog stretch. Again, this is another great mobilizing stretch for the hips, for the adductors. And what happens here is with the knees nice and wide, I'll back up a bit, knees nice and wide, what we're going to do is we're going to drop those hips all the way nice and forward, and then we're going to sit back as far as we absolutely can. So you get a nice stretch up through the lats and serratus as well as the anterior chain. Try to get your knees a little bit wider. Move all the way forward and drop those hips. Move all the way back and sit back onto those calves, okay? So great mobilizing exercise for the hip joint itself, everything that supports the hips, and as well as the adductors that sit on the inside of the legs. Next up is fire hydrants. This is warming up range of motion of the hip socket itself, as well as turning on the glutes, the external rotators of the glutes that are oftentimes weak in a population, and which causes further low back pain. So the idea of the fire hydrant here is to keep everything else absolutely static. You're going to use one leg, drawing small circles, and start to get larger and larger. You're increasing the size of the circle, and then you're going to work your way back down. So what the fire hydrant stretch is not, and oftentimes you'll find this, is someone will bring the leg up and start moving it and start collapsing through the arms. You want to keep everything as tight as you possibly can. Lift the leg, small circles, become larger circles. Everything else is engaged and tight, become nice, wide, arcing circles, and then you're going to change that range of motion. Okay, so you're going about 10 circles in one direction, 10 in the other, and then to the opposite leg. 2 times through that is brilliant to warm up the hips, buy you the mobility that you need to have a great squat session, lunge session, jumping squat session, running session, anything where you're dominant in through the hips and you need range of motion. Next up, we're going to look at a seated piriformis stretch. So if you're not comfortable lying back down onto the ground, you can simply find a chair, okay, just like a box here. You're going to cross that leg over, and again, you're going to find one side's dominant, a little bit tighter, and you can't get the fuller range of motion. So sitting just like this, you've already got to stretch in through the glute group, in through the piriformis group. Nice and tall, you can apply downward pressure through that knee, which is going to increase a little bit more, buy you some range in that hip capsule, as well as stretch out the glute and the piriformis. You can walk that in, apply more stretch, sit nice and tall, breathe, relax, let it open up. To finish this one off, you can come under the leg and bring it up into the chest, bring it up into the opposite shoulder, applying a little bit more of a stretch to the higher glute medius group. I would switch that to the opposite side. Again, I would take time to open up and stretch, work through the hip capsule, buy myself some range, not forcing it, taking time, and get better range and better movement, loosen up the glutes, and loosen up the piriformis group as well. Next up, we've got 2 upper body movements that I really like to do before things like rowing days or push-up days, any upper body. But number 1 is going to be a stick dislocate. So just taking a wide stick like this, hands nice and wide to start, and you're going to decrease that distance as you progress. But simply up, over, and back, stretch through the chest, stretches all the musculature through the long head of the biceps, as well as through the rotator cuff and through the shoulder. So you're going simple ranges of motion all the way forward, all the way back. As you progress, your hands can come a little bit closer, which will apply even more stretch to those structures. You can take with long arms and start doing circles around. So this is using a little bit more range of motion into the shoulder joints, and then you can change that direction as well. So this is going to stretch and open everything from the core, from the hips, way up high into those shoulders. So you get a full, incredible range of motion. You can do more with your workouts. Finally, for the wrists, a lot of people have very, very tired wrists, very, very tight wrists. You can utilize the same stick to stretch out the wrists. So holding an underhand grip here, all I'm going to do is take the wrists that I'm stretching, turn it in, walk it away from the body. The longer I get out, the more downward pressure, you can see the more rotation I'm getting here. So I'm looking at the rotary muscles in the wrist, which are often sitting in one plane here. I'm going to try to get a little bit more rotation and unstick them so I can get more strength in my grip, more strength in my exercise. And you can see here, I've got a bit of a difference right and left. I can get this out quite far and quite comfortable, keep the weight in nice and close to the chest. But as I switch to my left arm, I've got a little bit more restriction in that left side, very, very tight. So I've got to work on this. I'm holding, I'm breathing, I'm pulsing, I'm relaxing. I'm allowing that wrist to untie itself. So 15 different stretches and movements that you can apply depending on what you see on the board when you go to work out, whether it's here at Corflex Fit Body Bootcamp, if you're doing a physio session at Corflex Chiropractic, or even at your local gym, things that will loosen up and move the body. Now a lot of these are movement-based, and you want to use movement-based stretches to prep yourself for a workout, but spend more time on mobility after the workout. You need a little bit of a tightness into the joints for safety in your workouts. At the end of the workout, spend more time on mobility, loosening things up, and you can do these on a daily basis to get you moving better. If you have any questions, post them down in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll catch you in the